This is Valley News Live at 6.
You need teachers to run a school, so when several called in sick this morning due to the side effects from their COVID-19 vaccine second shot, the Dilworth-Glendon-Felton School District was forced to turn to distance learning. The district says they were prepared for the situation. And as Valley News Team's Bailey Hurley found out, many other districts in the Valley are preparing a Plan B.
With 50 teachers able to get a COVID vaccine at a time, DGF Superintendent Brian Tygeson says as the district looked at the calendar, they knew yesterday's doses could cause a problem for staff numbers today.
Because we've seen the effects of the second vaccination if you get a reaction. I had the same issue. I was out for a day, and it's like the 24-hour flu.
And he says his staff were doing as much prep as they could this week, which paid off in the end after over a dozen teachers called out this morning.
Same type of preparation you do when you're anticipating a storm.
And while Northern Cass staff are taking notes of DGF's situation, Superintendent Corey Steiner says his district already doesn't meet on Fridays, making it the perfect day to administer staff vaccines.
Well, there's going to be some anxiety about the side effects, and that way they can get vaccinated and they have to go home. They just go home and there's no worry about missing anything. We don't have to add another level of stress on top of what's already going to be a stressful moment.
Tygeson says he's confident this will be the first and only time this kind of hiccup will happen, but says just in case they've pushed back their full-time in-person learning date until all staff who've signed up to get vaccinated have.
Why have vaccinations going on at the same time that you're bringing the kids back and have another potential of having to say, hey, we got to go distance for one more day?
Adding if your small town school hasn't already made a backup plan, to do so now before it's too late. Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
Fargo, West Fargo, and Grand Forks Public Schools all have plans in place for individual classrooms or schools to go to distance learning for a day or two if needed. But they say they doubt it will be necessary as all of their staff won't be able to get vaccinated at once. We have each of the district's responses on our VNL News app. Just go there and click on this story. There's word late this afternoon that an FDA advisory panel is recommending the agency should give Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus the green light. Members voting unanimously in favor of the FDA authorizing the vaccine for emergency use for people ages 18 and up. If authorized, it would make it the nation's third authorized coronavirus vaccine and would be the first one that requires a single dose. Why scrape the ice and snow off your driveway when Mother Nature's willing to help? It certainly was nice to see that happening today, especially with what's to come. Hutch joins us with the latest on the warmth. Hutch?
Mike, thank you so much. 40s and even some 50s today, south and west of the FM area. Beautiful conditions out there to close out our work week, but things are changing. We do see some snow showers drifting through southern portions of Canada. A few sprinkles of rain showing up on the radar in the southeastern portion of North Dakota as we head into the evening hours. Most of us will stay dry. Look at these temperatures. Still 46 Sisseton, 42 in Fargo-Moorhead, 39 Detroit Lakes and Hallock at 32. So that freezing line starting to dip south with north winds there. See some virga off in the distance as well, snowflakes fall from the clouds and evaporates before it hits the ground. We do have temperatures expected to be in the 20s by late this evening, and our 40s will be gone for the entirety of the weekend. So get out there and enjoy while you can. I'll have details on some measurable snow and cold heading our way for the weekend ahead.
All right, thanks, Hutch. A man was shot and police are looking for an alleged gunman tonight. The call came in early this afternoon as an accidental shooting in the 1900 block of 41st Avenue South in Moorhead. An 18-year-old man was found with a wound in his lower body, and the man who police say is responsible took off. Reinertson Elementary School was in lockdown for a short time. The victim, whose name hasn't been released, is in the hospital. No word on how he's doing. We're learning more about a shooting in Valley City last night. Alex Meridian is charged with attempted murder. The victim told police he woke up to Meridian standing above him with a pistol. They talked before the victim says he stood up and grabbed an unloaded AR-style rifle. Meridian admitted to authorities that he shot the victim in the abdomen with the intent to kill and would do it again. Meridian turned himself in and faces up to 20 years in prison if he's found guilty. And we're also learning more about a crash that killed a 21-year-old Fargo man. 19-year-old Elijah Vistens is charged with criminal vehicular homicide, failure to report a death, and minor in possession of alcohol. Police say 21-year-old Isaiah Johnson was in the car with him at the time of the single-car crash. Johnson was thrown from the passenger seat and died from his injuries. Vistens is admitted to drinking before the crash. West Fargo teacher Ron Thompson is out on $25,000 bond. He made his first court appearance this morning on a charge of luring a minor for sex online. Police say evidence seized in the investigation shows explicit conversations and photos between Thompson and a girl he believed to be a 14-year-old, who was actually an undercover officer. Thompson's upcoming preliminary hearing or arraignment have been set for late March. Fargo police are still looking for this man accused of shooting 3 people at a downtown bar. Brandon Grant is his name. He's considered armed and dangerous. He's accused of attempted murder and aggravated assault with a dangerous weapon. At last word, all 3 victims in the shooting were still in the hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police say if you see Grant, call them. A man was arrested after firing a gun in an apartment where the bullet passed through the floor below. It happened early this morning at 2323 South 17th Street in Grand Forks. Investigators determined that the gun was fired from the 3rd floor. They say the bullet went through the floor and through the ceiling of the apartment underneath. There was someone in the 2nd floor apartment at the time of the incident who was not injured. This man, Jordan Stone, was arrested and told police he thought the gun was not loaded at the time. One person was killed in a crash. It happened in Polk County around 9:45 last night. A street sweeper was northbound on Highway 75 when a PT Cruiser traveling in the opposite direction crossed the center lane and crashed into the street sweeper. The 19-year-old driver of the Cruiser was thrown from the vehicle and died. The 41-year-old driver of the street sweeper had non-life-threatening injuries. A person of interest in a case involving fraudulent checks is now in jail. Amy Murray was arrested Wednesday on an unrelated warrant. She also faces new charges of preventing arrest and assault of a peace officer relating to a search of her home. Last month, Fargo police started investigating multiple cases involving checks that seemed like they were coming from the Cass County Jail. Murray and another woman were named persons of interest. Authorities say that they are no longer seeking the other woman. A group that's looking into reducing deadly encounters between police and people in Minnesota say that many of the recommendations are being implemented. They include modifying the threshold of police to use deadly force and the creation of an independent unit to investigate deadly force cases involving police. In fact, the Pohlad Family Foundation is committing $3 million through a partnership with the National League of Cities to help implement the group's recommendation. Hundreds of people from the community and members of local veterans today honored an unclaimed veteran during a memorial service. Sheldon J. Bushrow, Fort Wayne, Indiana, spent part of his life in the U.S. Marine Corps, serving in Korea from 1950 to 1951. He passed away at the age of 88. Today's memorial service is the military's way of saying a final goodbye.
It's so overwhelming. Sorry. I didn't know that this many people would show up for him, so I'm so happy to be able to honor his life in this way with these wonderful people.
Through a background investigation, Bushrow's birth certificate, military record, and family tree were discovered. He has a sister that served in World War II, a brother that served in Korea in World War II, and a sister that served in the Navy. Later on Valley News Live at 6, the storm clouds continue to gather over a Dickinson House member. We'll have the latest on calls for him to step down.
And from Jamestown into southeast North Dakota, some 50s out there for your Friday. Fabulous weather to close the work week, but we do have changes in the offing heading into your weekend. Your hour-by-hour details on how much snow and where coming up next.